Well, hello everyone. This is Carrie back with How to Homeschool My Child, and I am here this weekend with you. And hopefully, we are giving you some good content, some good free content, actually, some giveaways. We've got a lot of fun things planned. I've even got some surprises tomorrow night I'm going to be sharing as well. Today, what I want to do is talk to you about encouraging your kids in a love of learning. My question to you is, do your kids love learning? Are you struggling to get them to do homeschool because they're complaining all the time? If that's the case, then hopefully the comments, the things that I share in this video will help you today. Now, to get started, what I want to do is introduce my own kids and tell you sort of about our homeschool journey and some ways that I actually incorporated 3 strategies that I incorporated with my kids to encourage a love of learning. Now, this is an older picture. Well, actually, let's use this one. They're both sort of older, and some of you have seen this, but anyway, we'll go this way. So here are the kids. This is Gentry. She's my middle daughter. She's married to Andrew, and they have Landry. They're here actually this weekend. The 2 girls just left for a baby shower, Landry's first baby shower, I guess, and she's walking around, not looking like that. This is Ashley, our oldest. She has Faith and Elizabeth, and she is married to Jesse. And then we have Hunter, the baby, right here. He is not married, no kids, no nothing. But let me just tell you some stories about them, because I will just tell you, my kids did not always love learning. Yes, I know GASP. Anyway, they did not always love learning. So I really had to do some trial and error and some experimentation to figure out what could I do to encourage my kids to love learning. If you're on this, please feel free to pop your name in here and let us know. Do your kids love learning? Do you need a little bit of help with love learning? Or if you have a little tip that you would like to share, please pop in, leave your name, and tell us where you stand with your kids liking learning. So, easy little thing there. So let me just tell you, Ashley is our oldest, and one thing that I found was if I let my kids start making choices, that didn't mean they made choices about every subject area, but if I let my kids start to make some choices about what they were going to study, all of a sudden they were more interested. All of a sudden they decided that they were going to do a better job because they liked the topic that they were working with. So there's one thing. How did we incorporate that? Actually, earlier today, there is a post here in Top Picks, and it's called Grace Week. And I'm not going to describe that. You can go read that and get the information. There's actually a freebie when you go to my blog post as well. And so that would be one thing that I would really encourage you to do, is go see how Grace Week works. I will give you a little tip. What we did when we were using that was 3 weeks on, 1 week the kids made a choice. 3 weeks I made choices, 1 week they made a choice. And that was just sort of how we worked it. And that 4th week was our Grace Week. So Ashley, the oldest, if we did anything with science, she was interested. In fact, one summer I bought the biology dissection kit, and the kids were not even in high school. And I hired a college kid who was taking anatomy here at Texas A&M, and she would come over once a week and they would dissect. Hunter and Gentry endured. Although Hunter likes science, but I think he was too young. And anyway, Ashley would sit with this college student in her anatomy book for a whole nother hour, trying to figure out more things about whatever it was that they dissected. Why? Because it was something she was interested in. I wasn't just forcing it on her. The next one, let's see, Gentry here, pretty much any kind of novel, anything that was reading or literature based worked. Now, I actually pulled a few books. I could not find Ashley's books. The other thing with Ashley, World War II. We had lots of World War II and lots of American Revolution books. And so if we could focus in those 2 areas of history, which we couldn't stay there forever, that would help. But if she was writing a paper and it doesn't really matter the topic, I would let her make those choices. Gentry, Sense, and anything with Jane Austen. So we had Sense and Sensibilities. We got all of them over there. Pride and Prejudice, Mansfield Parks, Persuasion, all of them. So she probably read all of them. And I remember one year in high school, that was what her research paper was. Every year in high school, my kids had to write a research paper. I did not choose the topic. I let them choose the topic because I knew if I chose the topic, it'd be forcing them. If they chose the topic, there was more interest in it. And so they would actually do a better job in their research, in their writing. They wanted to communicate well with whatever that was. So pretty much anything, any project we could do with reading, that would help. Hunter. Hunter did not like to read. I don't think he liked to read till he was in college or later. But so I had to really work. The girls, at least I could find things that they liked, but he didn't like to read. But he loved sports. And so I remember there was a year that it was, I don't know, fifth, sixth grade. He was going to write a 5-paragraph paper about a person. And you may have heard this story. We're studying Rome, and I'm thinking, oh, let's write a paper on an emperor. He could learn even more about Rome. And he was like, no, thank you, Mom. So I thought, Ginger and I were at the used bookstore a week ago, and we bought a book about Derek Jeter, one of the best shortstops in baseball. And I said, well, what if we write the paper on Derek Jeter? And that's what he did. Now, which one do you think he learned more about writing and did a better job on? It was the one that he was most interested in. So if you want to encourage your kids to love learning, allow them to make choices. Don't force them to follow you all the time. Let them lead in their learning. And this is one way that we could do it. Hunter was not into history. He was not into reading, although he has grown into it. And I will say that even if they don't love it now, they will eventually maybe. I went to... we were in London. We were doing a conference, and we brought the kids along to help us run the conference. And we said we'd stay afterwards a week and sightsee if you would help us. I remember there was one morning I wanted to go see the National Gallery of Art in London. And Hunter is the only one that would come with me. He's the one that complained every time we went to the art museum. He was the one that just rolled his eyes whenever I opened the art books. He was the only one because it had taken 10 years, but he began to love art. He began to love learning. He thought the pieces, he was excited about the pieces he was going to actually see. So let your kids make a choice. Go look at my post on Grace Week. That's number one. Number two, read aloud. And I didn't even grab a book. I can't believe I was going to grab some of our favorite read alouds. I will say one of them was Johnny Tremaine. That was American Revolution time. We read the whole Little Britches series. Steve did at night. That was not during our homeschool time. But I still remember my kids. They would still, at the dinner table in the car, talk about the silly things that grandpa did and how they were glad their grandpa didn't act like that. If your kids are talking about books you're reading aloud, then they are interested in it. And so I would really encourage you to find a time to read aloud, not a book that has to be all about learning, just a book for enjoyment, because they will actually start to learn more. They will start to see plots. They will start to see the characters. And I would not discuss the book every single day, because then you're just strangling that love of learning. That's what we do a lot of times. We just strangle that love of learning. Kids, toddlers, my kids that are preschoolers, my grandkids, they will ask you a gazillion questions. They love learning. It is why? You know what it's like. But you know what we do? All of a sudden, they turn into 5-year-olds and it's time to start school. So we make them sit down and we give them this stack of books. And then what do? We strangle their love of learning. So we really need to undo what's up here about what we think school is and rethink about what education truly is. So how would I do read aloud? One, you've already heard, my kids like different subjects. So we would alternate, and I would make sure we were reading a science biography every once in a while. Hunter did love water stories. So every so often we were reading a water story. He also liked Robin Hood and King Arthur. So we would alternate those in there. Gentry, anything, pretty much, we were okay with her. So we would alternate. I would make it fun. And I also did not expect my kids to sit on the couch like this and be perfect angels. Because believe me, I couldn't even do that. I can't even do that as an adult. So why would I expect my kid to sit? So I always had hands-on activities that were quiet that they could do. Now, Hunter's wasn't always so quiet because he had a glove and a baseball and he would catch it. So we'd hear that. But you know what? He was listening better if he was doing that. We had art supplies like sketchbooks and papers. We had Legos. We had laundry to fold. They folded laundry twice a week while we did reading aloud. So let your kids have something. I hear better when I am doing something. So you want to let them choose. You want to let them, I would read aloud. And then finally, I would do some hands-on activities and I would tie them in. I've already told you with Ashley, science experiments work great. Crafts work great. She loved hands-on, any kind of project you could create, any subject area. She loved that. Gentry, the project with a book. that was perfect for her. Hunter, he liked hands-on things. He was good with art and being creative. He was, he liked science as well. He just didn't like reading about it. And he was not a bookwork person. And so, believe it or not, even though he was not a bookwork person, he did extremely well in college. I mean, he had great grades and he got a great job, probably the best job of all my kids and son-in-laws coming right out of college. He did great. And so just because I took a different avenue about how to teach my kids, how educate them, and let them choose and do some reading aloud and do hands-on projects, he still learned how to go through college, how to make a good grade, and how to be a good employer. So those are a few things. Now, here's one more thing. Games. Even if it's card games like this scientist game or this explorer game, we have all sorts of games that were educational, and there are information on each of the cards that you can play with as well. So those are just 3 ways that our family encouraged a love of learning. Amy says, I only have one, so if she just hates the read aloud we chose, is it better to ditch it or teach her to see things through and finish it? Well, I would say, Amy, one, it would depend on the age of the child. If it were Hunter and he was in that 5 to 8-year-old, I'd probably just ditch it and go on. But I would say as they turn into junior high, they're older to understand. They can think abstractly. So elementary, literal, I would do it. And then I would start to introduce other topics. The other thing you might do even at lower grades, say, you know what, I'm going to let you choose for 4 times, and then I'm going to choose one, and we're going to pursue. We're going to be persistent in that. So that's a really good question. I didn't have that problem. They had to just listen to whatever because we had so many varied ideas. I would say, especially if you have a big family, you have 7 or 8 kids, I would every time write down what you think your kid's biggest interest is, and be sure as you read aloud, you rotate. I do think you have a good point, Amy, in that, yes, we do need to teach our kids to be persistent and to complete something. But when you're encouraging a love of reading, that may not be the right time in read aloud. The other thing you could do is, let's say, I don't know what she doesn't like, but if she's reading a book on her own, one thing I told my kids, I think I told them they had to read at least 1/3 of it before they could decide yes or no. Because a lot of times, even me, I was reading a review I wrote a while back on a book that I read for me, adult level, and it said, it took me a while to get into this story because I just didn't get into it. But about 1/3 to half a way in, I was hooked, and then I just couldn't wait to put it down to finish it. So we need to give ourselves time because sometimes some authors take a little bit longer to build up. That's how I taught my kids to sort of persist through a book. And so, some of those were books that they chose from the library. It was their chosen book. It wasn't one that I chose for them. I will say I did in especially history. They had to read a book that was historically related as we would study time periods, and they didn't have a choice on that. So that may be something you can work on persistently. I would really work on making read aloud a fun time and something that they really enjoy and you can interact with. So, okay, so I have a few things I want to tell you. One, love of learning is one of 4 steps that I teach when it gets time. And I'm going to read that other comment in just a second. 4 steps that we teach to get ready for school each year. On Tuesday, I have a free class. It's called Start School Right in 2021. I was trying to remember what year it was. And there are 4 of them. Love of Learning is the second one. I'm going to go through all 4 steps on Tuesday. It'll be a live class on Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Central Time. It is completely free. I will leave the registration link in a comment when I'm finished because I didn't want to overdo everything in the description, but we'll be going over a lot of things. There will be very practical tips that you can learn and you can start the very next day using if it's something that is a good fit for you as well. So that is Tuesday, January 19th, 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, and 5 Pacific Time. So I'll give you the registration link. Yes, there should be a replay if you can't make it, but there will probably be some special content on the live. We will have Q&A on the live one as well, and I'll be answering questions. I have one more thing. Oh, it's the bronze bow. It's meant to reinforce the history we are doing. She is 10, and we are 1/3 of the way through. I was trying to think. I know the bronze bow because we read it, and I don't know if all my kids liked it, but I think that's just a call you're going to have to make. I would say, because I know Witch of Blackbird Pond, people won't read it because it's got the word witch in the title, and it's not really about witchcraft. It's about something that the community thought this woman sort of acted like a witch, but she wasn't. And so that's one I would tell people, I would tell kids, let's read a little bit more and see how it turns out. But we like the Bronze Bow, although right now I can't really think the whole plot. I can remember Johnny Tremaine. I remember Witch of Blackbird Pond. Oh wait, Bronze Bow is not American. It's a Roman time period. So we did read it. I would just say, if you're really struggling with it, maybe put it aside and then bring it back later and see if you could read it. Otherwise, I would just move on to one. If this is Roman time period, I will leave a couple books that my kids really liked around that ages for read aloud, and you might look and try and see if any of those would work. I'm thinking Bronze Bow is Greek or Roman. Sorry. I'll look it up and I'll leave you a few titles that we enjoyed. So, and some of that's just calls. We just got to make a call on what works and what doesn't work. But thank you for your question. And there's nothing wrong with stopping it and moving on and then maybe coming later. So you're welcome. Oh, we got more comments. I'm sort of slow. Okay, there we go. Okay, the other thing I want to make a comment, we have a course that's 6 weeks long. It includes 15 strategies of love of learning, 7 tools of learning, and if it's something that you think would be helpful, you can save $15 this weekend. The code is weekend-20. That's all in the description. There's a link that goes straight to the page so you can read more about it. I'm not going to go over all of it. But what I will tell you is I share the things that worked. Some of the things didn't work. And if my kids were really struggling, complaining about a book, I would probably go ahead and quit it, Amy, and then move on, because I wanted my kids to enjoy learning, and especially at 10. Maybe in high school, I will say there were times that they had to do things they didn't like. That is part of life. I have to do things every day that I don't really care about, and they definitely need to start learning that. And I would say that 10 to 13 or 14 is sort of a transition, so your daughter's a little bit young and you can just move from there. All right, anyway, all that information is on the description, and I will say the thing about the Love of Learning course and the Tuesday free class, I'll be talking a lot about adding purpose to your homeschool, adding real intention, and not just going wishy-washy and saying I'm doing whatever someone tells me to do in 5th grade. So thank you for your time. I'll leave some comments. I'll leave some of those books. I'll leave the link to the free class as well. And I hope to see you back. I will be back tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, and we'll be talking actually about adding purpose to your homeschool. Do you have a purpose for it? Do you have any reason for it? Or are you just doing what everyone else is telling you to do? So thanks for spending time with me. I am Carrie Beck with How to Homeschool My Child. Y'all have a great day.